Hello, my name is Kristin Eaves, and I serve as the Carson Accountability and Transparency President. I'm really happy to be here today. We have Assemblymember Mike Gipson, and this is the CAT podcast. So welcome. This is the official podcast for Carson Accountability and Transparency, and we're really happy to have you here. For those of us who are joining for the first time, or for those of you who are joining for the first time, a little bit about CAT. We are a nonprofit organization formed to promote effective, honest, accountable local government practices. We are a volunteer group of Carson residents with decades of civic involvement, committed to making Carson a model of good government. So if you have not heard about us, visit us on our social media platforms and look out for the Carson Observer newspaper, which we are happy to promote. So let's get started. We have Assemblymember Mike Gipson as our guest. So for those who don't know, Assemblyman Mike Gipson has been serving the residents of Carson since 2005. When he was elected to the Carson City Council. In 2014, he was elected to the California State Assembly and currently represents the 65th Assembly District, which includes the city of Carson, Compton, Long Beach, Wilmington, and San Pedro, and several other unincorporated communities. Assemblyman Gipson was also our very first guest on the podcast and is now returning for our 10th episode. So we thank him so much for continuing to support us. So we are going to get into the questions. So Assemblyman, can you go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, Kristin, let me say thank you very much. I was grateful to be on your first guest, and now I'm the 10th guest. And seeing this, or the work that you guys doing, CAT, its matriculation has been great, giving us an opportunity to elevate, but also create the kind of accountability and transparency that absolutely is needed in our communities, not just Carson, but throughout our state. And so you articulated. I was born and raised in Watts, went to all local public schools. My parents only had a high school education. My father was a truck driver who rose to be the union president of his local union. My mother did domestic work, and what that means for those of you who don't know what that means, she cleaned rich people's homes. And so together, they had 4 children. I have 3 amazing sisters. One passed away 2022. Carson gave me my start, and I have to ring that bell. I am so grateful and so blessed to stand on the shoulders of so many great people in the city of Carson, whether or not they had a title or not. Doesn't make a difference. They care. They believe in the city of Carson. And I'm grateful that those individuals supported me in 2005 when I ran for the Carson City Council. It was an amazing life transformation to be able to serve Dr. Cornel West said, you must serve the people you love and love the people you serve. And certainly I love the residents of the city of Carson. Whether you voted for me or not makes no difference. I still love you. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity to have and learn how to, one, be a leader, and then catapult that in 2014, running for the California State Assembly and winning in 2014. I couldn't have done it without Carson. Carson is where I raised my family, is where I still live. Carson has given me so much, and I want to make sure that I give back in insurmountable ways to the residents that I'm indeed grateful for to exist. I mean, I just saw so many of them at 24-Hour Fitness this morning, where I worked out at 5:30 this morning, right? When I go to the grocery store, when I go to the family fish market or whatever, I'm always confronted by some Carsonites who want to engage in the conversation, how they worked in my campaign, how their children went to school with my children or grandchildren. So it's always that connection that feeds this energy to want to do better. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. to have almost served on the Carson Council for almost 10 years, and now serving in the state legislature, where I can create policies that is germane to my children's, my sons, and my grandchildren. And I grew up as a man of faith, and got it from my parents. So, being elected to represent Watts, Willowbrook, where I was born and raised, Compton, Carson, North Long Beach, Harbor Gateway, North and South, Harbor City, Wilmington, and San Pedro, it is absolutely a blessing when I go to those communities and connect with the people who deserve to have their representative reach out to, touch, and to be able to have dialogue, good, bad, or indifferent. And I'm fine with that, because we're not going to always agree. But I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve you. And if I fail, give me another opportunity to get it better. And that's what I want to do, is I want to make sure that I touch as many people's lives as I possibly can while I'm still here, because I want to make sure at the end of the day that my living here is not in vain.
Well said. And I think you hit it on the head. Carson is a very special space, and is very neighborhood and community oriented. And like you, I love being a resident of Carson, and can't wait to see how we continue to evolve as a city. So thank you so much for your service. So for people who are not as familiar with legislation and policy, can you describe your role as the Assembly member for the 65th District?
My role is to touch as many people's lives as I possibly can in a positive way. My role is to making sure that I'm able to bring home the bacon, bring home resources that is absolutely needed for the city of Carson. And we've done that. I think we've gotten over $10 million for the city of Carson. We have a tenacious mayor, Mayor Lula Davis Holmes. She served with me. I was already on the city council. I supported her when she ran for the city council, and welcomed her with open arms to be a partner with me while on the city council, working for the betterment and putting people first, putting people before politics. And that's what we did together. And now she's the mayor, and she's still very demanding. And I appreciate her aggressiveness to fight on behalf of. But she really doesn't have to fight hard. She doesn't really have to twist my arm, because I live here. And so I know the work that I do benefit not only my families, but the people, my neighbors, the people who I go to the gym with, the people who I see at Family Fish Market and other fish markets. I'm in the city of Carson, the people who I go and run into at the cleaners, I'm at the gas station. And so those are the people who we're fighting for, and making sure that we make their lives better. I want to be a drum major for justice. And I can't do that if there's a kid in my community who can't read or write. Whether or not I know that child's name or not makes no difference. I want to make sure they can read or write. I want to make sure that the kid who has a disability, like I once had, take that weakness and make it a strength and catapult themselves into the sky and become greater things that they always dreamed of being, and one day coming back to their community and serving. As a state Assemblymember, I write public policy. I write policies, bills, legislation. We get work done here in California. I lead when it comes down to sensible gun legislation. I chair the Select Committee on Police Reform. As a former police officer, it's important when you look at what happened to George Floyd and making sure that no one else had to die in a very inhumane way like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others. We want to hold law enforcement accountable. Just like, Kat, accountability and transparency. We want to make sure that law enforcement, they're serving, protecting. I wrote a bill, Assembly Bill 948, I believe it's 948, that's dealing with dismantling police officers, gangs in the police department. If we can't have the Crips and Bloods, they can't have the banditos, the executioners in uniform. In uniform, those individuals who have sworn an oath to preserve and protect our community. And so we do this from a lens of being unapologetic, because it's the right thing to do. We do this to making sure that, one, that we deliver services to our community. You can call my office. Anything that's dealing with the state of California, we have authority in. So if you have a problem with DMV, call me. If you have a problem with EDD, call me. If you have problems with Cal OSHA, call me. If you have problems with the state disability insurance, call me. Call me. That's what my office here. And I have some amazing people working on my team who are there to answer your call. If you leave a message, I'm going to get back with you, and then we're going to tackle that situation, and we're going to hopefully turn it around for your good and for our good as well. And so we believe in, one, give a man, a woman a job, you stop a bullet. Father Boyle, Homeboy Baker said, give a man, a woman a job, you stop a bullet. And so therefore, we know that we live in a society where there's a lot of bullets because there's a lot of guns. What we just happened a few weeks ago, what transpired over in Maine, should never happen in America. Never happen. California leads the way as it relates to sensible gun legislation. I'm happy to say that I'm part of that, leading in that space to making sure that we decrease the amount of guns on our streets. I'm reminded of the Love family, who mother and son was killed in their driveway here in the city of Carson, which is unheard of, right? Yes, we have our issues, but we're working to try to making sure that no one have to experience what George Floyd experienced, Breonna Taylor, or what the Love family has experienced. We want to make sure that we have safe communities. We also want to make sure that people who need a job, they have access to those jobs so that they can provide for their families and get a piece of the American dream. And how I equate a piece of the American dream is home ownership, because that creates generational wealth, and that allows you to pass it on to your children, and they can pass it on to their children, and that creates a generational wealth, but also the America promise that I think that we should make sure that everyone gets a piece of the American promise in the state of California, in the United States of America. Makes no difference the language you speak, makes no difference who your mama and daddy is, makes no difference the title. You deserve it. Go after it and get it.
I love everything that you just said, Assemblymember. To piggyback off what you're saying, for those who are watching, the Assemblymember this year has brought up some really great legislative policies, including AB 360. So when he's talking about police and violence within the police, within the force, we have the AB 360, which is the banning of excited delirium, which aims to ban the term excited delirium as a legitimate diagnosis or cause of death for those who have lost their lives while in police custody. So that's very important. Something else I was really interested in is AB 1642, the Green Playground, and would require the California Department of Education and Natural Resources Agency, along with other state entities, to develop recommendations for a master plan for green schoolyards and report them to ledge committees. That's also really big. We have some fabulous schools in Carson, and we would love to see more greening happening at them, so our students have strong environments to learn and as well play, which is really important for our education. So thank you so much for that work that you're doing. So I was going to talk or ask you more about the services that your office provides. You kind of tapped into that a bit for people who have issues with employment, EDD, in other bodies, county bodies. You can reach out to the Assemblymember's office and get help. Assemblymember, are there any other services that you guys provide for Carson residents?
Well, we provide any state services. I just named a few state services. Anything dealing with the state of California, just call my office, area code 310-324-6408. And someone is be there to just tell them what your issue is around state services. We have been able to provide people. There's one lady, she hadn't got unemployment benefits in 3 years. We were able to make a few phone calls, and not only were able to get her her unemployment benefits, but we were able to get it backdated 4 years. 4 years.
That's big.
This lady had to leave out of her house. She lost her house as a result of that, and moved in. But when it turned around, and she got that check, she was able to, capture things that she had lost as a result. And that's the kinds of stories that we're able to manifest in the work that we're doing here in this office. I invite you to reach out to our office. Go to our website. Just put in Mike Gipson, Assemblymember Mike Gipson. Go to my website. There's all kinds. There's a bar that you can look at all the services in which we offer that my office is well equipped to be able to handle. But I invite you to do that. I challenge you to connect with us and on a personal level on the things that we're doing. We just got through doing a young girls conference over at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, Go Toros, where we had close to 500 young girls from high school to age 26 years of age. It's called Blush, Building Our Leaders to Sisterhood. And awesome. What we're able to do is bring young girls together to collaborate, talk, teach them about table etiquette, teach them about how the queens that they are, how to go after something, to take all the limits off your life and just go after it and build your own dream that you want to see to the possibility of your future, making it that much brighter, and being and understanding your role as a queen that you are in our community, and how we're going to love on you with resources and be able to network with other people. We've done that. We put close to 700 mothers who are in mourning on the streets of Los Angeles, walking through the housing developments of Watts, walking 2.5 miles. These are mothers who have lost their loved ones due to gun violence, carrying a casket followed behind a hearse, walking in the hot sun. It was 92 degrees, elevating their voices, making sure that we never forget their loved ones who've lost their lives due to gun violence right here. We're talking about the fourth largest economy in the country is right here is California, but yet and still we have this epidemic. We believe it's a health crisis when it comes down to gun violence in our community. And we know this came from the very pit of hell, and we want to send it back to hell. And we wish that no person die of gun violence in our community. Now, not Carson, not Watts, not Compton, all my district, and also in the state of California. So we're fighting hard to deliver these kinds of resources, this kind of education to our community because they deserve it. And guess what? We coin a phrase, a theme every single year. And 2023 is going the distance. We're going the distance on your behalf.
Awesome. Everybody get on board. We're going the distance. Lovely. So before the new district boundaries took effect last year, the city of Carson had been wholly represented by one assembly district. Now the city has two. It's been split in pretty much like two areas, and we have two representatives in the assembly. So from your experience, how do you think this new system works to the advantage of Carson residents?
Right. I would say anything that has two heads is a freak. But in this case, Carson has the benefit of having two courageous giants elevating and fighting on their behalf. When you're in a fight, you have one person has your back looking one direction, the other one is fighting in another direction. And that's what myself and my colleague, Assemblymember Lowenthal, is doing. He represents the 69th. So Carson is in fact split into two ways. I represent North Carson. So I represent everything from Alondra on the south all the way to Delamo Delamo on the south and Alondra on the north. So that's my area. And he represents from Delamo on the north all the way to Sepulveda, and then I pick back up again. And so what this means, you have two individuals in Sacramento fighting on behalf of the residents of the city of Carson, making sure that we bring home resources, making sure that we take your ideals, bill ideals, and transforming those into policies. And because I do a listening tour at the first of the year, we send out a survey every year asking you, the residents, what you want me to work on. And let me simply say this. Since I've been elected, I've heard your voice, whether or not you have access to me, whether you pick the phone and call me or not, whether you see me at the grocery store or the movies, makes no difference. We still communicate with you each and every year by a survey, asking you to tell me what you think I should work on for the following year. And we take that and analyze it, and that becomes the barometer. That becomes the roadmap. That becomes my legislative agenda for that year. And so we'll be doing the same exact thing for 2024. And so to have two people work on a betterment, Carson, you can't lose because guess what? We're going a distance on your behalf.
Well said. Thank you so much. So I mentioned some of the bills that you authored this year. What are some of the bills you authored that successfully passed, and what are you most proud of?
Wow, that's a loaded question and a long question. I'm very proud of every bill because I don't just carry bills just to carry bills. I don't just carry bills to somebody tell me no. And when the governor vetoes my bills, every no I turn into a yes. And every delay doesn't mean deny. I just said something. Every delay doesn't mean it's denied. It just means not right now. And so I'm able to take that veto and bring it back again next year. And 9 times out of 10, that bill passes and they have the governor's signature on it. I'm very grateful because, every time you tell me no, I'm going to figure out how to get a yes out of you. So I'm excited about Excited Delirium, which is Assembly Bill 360, dealing with and banning this theory that people die who died at the hands of police. And on a death certificate, they put the person died as a cause of death, excited delirium. That'll be fine. But if it existed, if there was medical fact, if there was based on science, but it doesn't. Right. So why are we using this? And so this bill, the governor just signed into law that goes into effect January the 1st, 2024. It bans coroners from concluding that someone died as a cause of excited delirium. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about foster youth and homeless youth. I want to be a drum major for those individuals. And so Assembly Bill 373, dealing with intercession for foster youth and homeless youth, making sure that they are given and are allowed to go to the front of the line when it comes down to winter classes as well as summer classes, because we know that if they're having these issues because they're homeless or fostered, they have a lot of barriers that comes in their way. And so we want to make sure they have an opportunity to meet their educational attainment and their goals and objectives. And so we have to do this by moving them in front of the line in terms of intercession for winter and also for summer. I'm also proud that I grew up in a time in which I'm dating myself now, where I had available to me metal shop, wood shop, we call career technical education school classes, right? Where when I was at Charles Junior High School, I went to home ec, I went to wood shop, metal shop. Those were electives, but we took those out over 30 years ago. But we found out when we took those out of the school system, that's opened up the prison pipeline. And so what we're going to do is close the prison pipeline, and we're going to mandate through my bill, which is Assembly Bill 1189, that we had to make a 2-year bill. So when we return back in January in 2024, we will be going and working on that bill to get it on the governor's desk. We're going to mandate all schools in California, whether it's a public or private, charter, makes no difference. We're going to reintroduce career technical education classes and courses so that those who are not going to go to a 2-year community college or a 4-year university, you can still succeed as a plumber, as a carpenter, as a welder, as a pipe fitter. We want you to succeed so you can get a piece of American dream. And so we're going to do this in a very unapologetic way because we believe that our children and our students deserve every tool in the toolbox so they can succeed. And so we realize even a plumber my plumber drives a Mercedes Benz. Okay. And I don't hate because he has mastered a skill set that he's embraced and people want. And so that's what we want to be able to do for our young people here in California, give them those kinds of skill set so they can master it and so they can go out and make big money and take care of themselves as well as their family. And so there's another bill dealing with nursing. We have a nursing shortage. We are bringing in nurses from other countries and out-of-state nurses. And then we have our own students, our own residents, our own children who are on waiting lists to get into nursing schools. That is not right. And so I have a bill, Assembly Bill 1695. We made a 2-year bill because we have a lot of collaboration. The governor's office asked me to hold it, and so they can add some stuff to it. And so we're going to start in 9th grade, all the way to 12th grade, and start laying the foundation into nursing so that when they get to high school and graduate from high school, they get their a dual enrollment. They get their A degree and they go to the front of the line and go to a nursing school and graduate and bring those skill sets home to the inner city, to our community, so that you can heal people and do what you do best, make people's lives better by the touch of healing.
Awesome. These assembly bills are really powerful because what I hear is that there's a problem, and you guys, and what you're doing is getting to the root of the problem to make change rather than just kind of putting a Band-Aid on something. So that's really awesome.
We have to. How can I feed my neighbor's kids if my own kids are going hungry? I just said something. We have a responsibility to our students, to our children, to making sure they can succeed before we take care of anybody else, especially out of state and out of the country. They're first.
Absolutely. And all of what you're saying definitely ties into the way we're able to have the financials to buy homes in places that we live. So many of my friends from Carson have had to move out of Carson because of the cost of living. And so being able to make sure that people can stay where they've grown up and do the work in the community to continuously build the community is important. So I love all the ideas and bills that you're bringing to the table. Thank you for your work. So, you mentioned that there are bills that you've authored that have been vetoed. And you are somebody who will bring it back to the table the following year to see how you guys can work it out. Are there any bills that you that didn't make it through the legislature this year that you are thinking to reintroduce next session?
Yes, there are some bills that had some dollar amounts attached to it. Governor vetoed 3 of my bills. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at his veto message and figure out a way how to bring some of those bills back that have some budget implications to it. We had a budget deficit this year, but I was still able to get money into the budget. We were able to get $1.5 million for a drug rehab center in San Pedro called the Beacon House. We were able to give SBCC, which is a community-based organization where they organize communities. I Heart Carson, I Heart Wilmington, I Heart San Pedro. We got them $1.5 million. We were able to get money into the budget in a very significant and strategic way, even in the midst of a budget deficit, right? And so next year in 2024, we're going to reanalyze the bills that the governor vetoed because it had not that, and I want to be clear, not that these bills were not important, not that these bills were not significant. It just had a dollar amount that was attached to it that would have further exacerbated the budget deficit. And so, but it gives me another opportunity to bring those bills back next year in 2024 and figure out how do we make some changes, some modifications, some additions, some amendments to the bill and put them back on the table and work extremely hard to get them to the governor's desk again. And so again, this governor has done a great job, and I'm very grateful to have a partnership, a relationship with Governor Gavin Newsom and both houses, the Senate and the Assembly, and getting these bills and elevating the voices of the people in which I represent. And so I think that's the reason why the people voted for me. I think they know I'm going to work hard. You see me in the community. My family is so in tune into the community. My kids went to all the recreation park programs growing up, as a Carson baby in the city of Carson. And so we're very grateful. But we want to spread the love throughout the entire district because everybody is important and relevant to this district. And that's why I would simply say you're worth fighting for. Carson, awesome. You're worth fighting for.
Yes, Carson, a very special city. And I'm glad to be a resident. Just for my own interest, how does the team go about prioritizing these vetoed bills? In terms of, I mean, all bills are important, but is there any process or system you guys have in place to make a decision about, okay, let's move forward with this one again, and so on?
So because these bills, the three bills, had a budget connotation to it, we need to look and see what the budget looks like next year in 2024. See if we're able to, one, bring in the revenue from taxes. See if we're able to, one, bring in revenues that builds up. It gives us a better outlook in terms of what the budget fiscal healthiness of the state of California looks like in 2024. Then we'll be able to bring those bills back and ask for the money that helps fuel these bills and to the point where he can sign these bills, or we can get these bills into a budget. Because that's another thing. We can do a bill specifically for and get it into the budget. When you talk about community schools, well, I did the bill for community schools because I worked for UTLA, United Teachers Los Angeles, and took the model from New York. I integrated it into a bill, and at the same time, we were doing a bill and we're doing a budget ask. Well, we got the money, $300 million into the budget to create community schools in the state of California. And so we pulled the bill back because we didn't need it, because we accomplished the goal. And so I'm hoping my team will analyze how much money these three bills cost and see if we can get that money designated into the 2024 budget. And if we can, we don't care if the bill is signed or not, because we accomplished the goal. We got the money specifically targeted, the same thing for the bill that the bill would do. Understood. And so that's how we measure. That's how we measure. That's how we start planning and analyzing our roadmap. But we do it with partnership. We do it in partnership with community. That's why our listening tours are important. That's why we encourage people to fill out the survey and get it back to us so we can, one, rate it and look at my legislative landscape for 2024, because it's going to be an exciting year in 2024. And I speak that into the atmosphere, and we believe that it's going to be done.
And it is so. So going into more of community involvement and residents being able to have a say in the bills that are being authored, or helping to shape them, rather. How can Carson residents voice their support for a bill? And is there any way for residents to recommend a bill to you and the team?
Absolutely. You can call my office. You can email us and say, hey, Mike, I have a bill idea, right? And give me some language on what that bill idea is. Send it directly to me. My team in Sacramento is going to help figure out, what we need to do in order to try to make it happen. And then we're going to correspond with you, and we're going to collaborate with you to let you know we can do it or we can't do it, right? And so you can do it that way. Write me, email me, fill out the survey, pick up the phone and call me, call the team. I have a team member representing all areas. June Aclepe, or Moses Aclepe, represent the city of Carson for me. He's has been very, very involved in the Carson community. You can reach him at the same number I gave you, 310-324-6408. Just ask for Moses or June. They're one and the same person. He goes by both names. But just ask for the Carson representative and you'll get him. And just have a conversation with him. We have coffees that we invite our residents to come and join me. We have coffee with your Assemblymember. And we have an exchange there. Again, as I said, we will do a listening tour. So we'll listen, and then we'll take what we listen to along with our survey and create the public policy, create the bills from there and move those out. But we welcome your partnership. We welcome your collaboration in this, because guess what? I can't do it by myself. It takes all of us collectively as a community. One thing about Kristin, I love about Carson's a family community. We embrace and elevate community. It is so diverse. You can walk down the street and see my Filipino brothers, my Samoan brothers, you name it, my Latino brothers, my Caucasian brothers, you name it. Carson's a melting pot. And that's what makes Carson so great, so dynamic. is because we are a melting pot, and we have a big tent, and all are welcome to the table and help us collaborate to help move Carson forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of events, you mentioned you host coffee chats and you have the big listening tour. Does the team have any upcoming events, or is there any news that is relevant to Carson residents that we should know about?
Well, I think every event we have is relevant to Carson, whether it's germane specifically to Carson. Like I mentioned, we had Blush a few weeks ago at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. Yeah. I'm telling you, the young ladies came, they were just so excited. They left there differently from when they came. And so I'm very excited about that, and the collaboration with all of our facilitators and all of our female leaders. And Cal State Dominguez, which is a jewel in our district. We had Mothers in Mourning, where we elevate the voices and the stories of mothers who lost their children prematurely due to gun violence. We'll continue to do this as long as we can turn on the news, read the newspaper, see something social media-wise that someone lost their lives. It makes no difference if you know the person or not. It makes no difference whether or not your DNA matches their DNA. Those are our children. And we should be concerned, and we should never feel like it just happens. I can't get used to this. I can't just get immune to the violence, the hit and run taking place, where someone actually hits someone and then leave and not render aid. What have we reduced ourselves to as a society? And that's not right. Nor is it right picking up a gun and going and killing someone, right? And so we want to make sure that, one, we have a safe community. And so we're going to elevate these kinds of events. I have because the bills that were signed, we have chosen a few of those bills, and we're going to bring people together in January with all of our sponsors of those bills. And we're going to have an authentic signature from the governor on those bills, as well as my signatures on those bills. And we're going to present those bills in a frame to those sponsoring organizations. And then it's also important that you know how these bills affect you, because a lot of times people don't know, well, how does excited delirium affect me? Assembly Bill 360. I don't understand. Well, you'll understand if someone you know who were in police custody passes away in police custody, and on the death certificate it says the person died from excited delirium. Well, what is excited delirium? Do I got to get so excited that my heart stops? No, it doesn't exist. So that's the reason why we ban that practice, that saying in the state of California that goes into effect January the 1st of 2024, so that people can't say that your loved one or someone died from excited delirium, because they can't use that term any longer, right? And we talk about, CAT, Carson's accountability and transparency. Well, as a former police officer, we want to make sure that people are held accountable and there's transparency there. So we need to make sure the coroners or the medical examiner's office lists exactly the cause of death. Let the chips fall where they may. Let a jury decide whether or not someone is guilty or not. But it's not for someone to cover something up. And that's what this bill strongly suggests that we are not going to stand for in this community. And so we want to hear from you. We want to connect with you. And we're going to have this event so that the community come and see how these bills connects to their everyday life. Because if it doesn't make sense, it's not going to come from me.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Thank you so much. I can't really agree more. So, residents make sure that you guys are going onto the website and knowing what bills are being passed. So we all just have a better understanding of how government is working for us, and then being able to take that information and reach out to the assembly member, or even people out or our team over in the city of Carson to ensure that budget allocation is being funneled to our city. Carson is celebrating 55 years this year. What are some of the things that excite you about the city of Carson?
We're still here. We're still here. We're still thriving. We're still growing. Our future is still unlimited. 55 years. We stand on the shoulders of those drum majors, those founders, our forefathers and foremothers, like a Gil Smith, like a Leo Moore, and just so many people I don't want to name, like a Dobar, so many people who are still with us and those who have gone on. I'm excited, one, that had a vision, because without a vision, the people perish. And I'm glad that the formation committee came together and says, we need to create a city called Carson. And we want to have our own university. And so we pulled Cal University Dominguez Hills from Palos Verdes to Carson. And that's the matriculation. And we got a university here. We're known for the Goodyear blimp. We have so many great things, not only our diversity that makes Carson, but also the people that lives in it. We are a family, a melting pot. And so I'm excited about 55 years celebrating this young child that is no longer riding a bike with training wheels, that is riding the bike full on, and it is an adult handling adult situations and making our lives better, making it where, at 5 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you see people walking around the university, with their sticks, getting their exercise in before the sun come up, going to our senior citizen center over in the city of Carson. We have great senior programs. We have the Marianne O'Neill and Joseph O'Neill Stroke Center, where my mother-in-law went to, and so many other people getting the kind of help that they need. It's so much that Carson has to offer. Our recreation park program. I said my children were part of this program. And so you have good qualified people who care about your children in our programs, running these programs for our young people so they can be exposed to so much dance, singing, music, the arts, all of this. And so 55 years is a testament we're still standing. It's a testament that we're still here and we're still thriving and growing because the future is unlimited.
Well said. And I totally agree with everything you're saying. As someone who grew up in Carson, I took advantage, or my parents really took advantage of the park programming, and it definitely has shaped me as an adult. I'd love to see a revitalization of children taking part in Carson's programming, because there's so much available. I'll get those quarterly magazines with all the programming happening at Veterans Park, even for the seniors, which I totally love. And I'd love to just see a revitalization of community, taking advantage of the really cool programs that we have at our parks and other centers throughout the city.
But one of the things I want to simply say is because we have great representation, and so we have Carson is now have districts. When I was on the city council, we were running at large. Now we have a district, and I'm happy to say I belong to the first district. Well, we have the Mayor Pro Tem, Jawan Hilton, as my council member, and we collaborate together and work together. I also represent Councilman Cedric Hickson, also the mayor. They represent me and I represent them. And that doesn't negate the other council members as well. It's just that my district represent these particular areas that I'm happy to represent. But I'm also happy to partner with these great leaders that the residents have voted to say we want them to represent us. And we collaborate and we work together. So I will be remiss if I didn't elevate their names in this podcast, because they are very relevant. They're very important to the future. And they help us become unlimited.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you. So that pretty much sums up our interview. I really appreciate your time, Assemblymember. You have a wealth of knowledge, and even what you were mentioning about just Carson's history. I didn't know that the school, Dominguez Hills, was pulled from Palos Verdes. There's so many things. I have a friend whose godmother tells me so much about the city and like the planning. And as I'm walking through the neighborhood, you can see the differences in the homes, and there's just so much history here. So thank you for elevating that. So I will say thank you for joining the show. Can you let us know how people Absolutely. Can you let us know how people can stay up to date with you? You've mentioned calling, but just some other ways that we can stay in the know about the work that you're doing.
I am on all social media platforms. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Follow my Twitter page. We also have, just put my name in. It'll pop up with me in a suit and a bow tie. I must say this, that those forefathers demand that I represent the people of Carson with dignity and respect and great leadership. And so they're the ones who pushed me to making sure when you represent us well as a professional. And so even me, who's grown, who has children and family, whole 9 yards, I'm still in a position to be able to have people pour into me. And those drum majors for justice who have gone on and those who are still here have poured into me. And so I invite you to reach out to me. I invite you to make me one of your friends. Let me follow you. You follow me. And also invite you to be involved in our community. Sometimes we drive up in our beautiful homes, let the garage door close, and we never go outside. I invite you to go outside. I challenge you to go outside and get involved. I challenge you to be the change agent that you want to see in our community. Thank you very much for this great opportunity. And Carson, thank you so very much. We're going the distance.
Awesome. So thank you guys for listening to the Carson Observer Podcast, which is connecting, educating, and informing you about the city of Carson. Take care and be on the lookout for some upcoming episodes. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel or anywhere else where our podcast is found. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Carson Accountability. So that is all. I'm Kristin Eaves. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Assemblymember.
Thank you so much. God bless. Bye-bye.